Hello, Hockey World. Let's just go right into this. What do you say?
Yeah, why not?
What the hell?
It's the third.
Is it?
Yes, it is. I'm sure. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, August 3rd, 2017.
I think I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday in the afternoon. Today we're a little bit early, so if you're watching and you weren't expecting us yet, it's fine. If you come in at 1 o'clock, the show's already done, but you can watch the whole thing now.
Blame my dentist.
Blame Mike's dentist. Mike has a dental appointment, and gosh, we can't fix that. That would be horrible. So anyway,
I want to proclaim I feel bad, but I have no cavities. I don't know why.
Wow.
I've never known why, and I'm happy, and I'm fearful of the dentist. Like, I go all the time. I get my teeth cleaned all the time. I eat Swedish fish, as you see. I eat other stuff.
Yes.
I'm just lucky. The dentist, it's horrible.
Genetics. It's genetics at some point.
Yeah, you watched the movie Little Shop of Horrors one too many times.
My wife, just a quick dentist thing is really funny. It's kind of a pre-show, sorry, but it's about to go with anyway. But my wife's is a dental family. Like, her dad was a dentist,
okay.
Their uncle was a dentist. So the first time I ever met them, the first dinner, I was dating my wife, and the first dinner I ever had with her dad and her mom and her sister, we're at a really nice house in Cherry Hill, right near where Bobby Clark used to live. And we're having dinner, and I chipped a tooth while I was eating dinner. All right, so this is my first time I met them. So I'm like, oh, and I'm like, what happened? And I've never chipped a tooth in my life while eating anything, but I chipped a tooth. And so immediately they sprung into action, and you're like, okay, get in the car, So we drove to Fort Washington. We drove to Washington Township, where his dental office is. We drove to Washington Township, New Jersey, and within like a half hour from like just meeting these people, I'm now in a chair with my mouth wide open, my wife holding the suction thing into my mouth, like holding the suction thing. And he's looking at it, he's like, yeah, you got some issues here with your teeth. I'm like, I'm really a good guy, This is like.
It sounds like entrapment. It sounds like they were
really like the worst possible. It was so funny that would happen. It was just insane.
Well, you could be like me, and I've not had any major problems with my teeth, and then all of a sudden I put in a couple Tic Tacs into my mouth, and after about 30 seconds, Tic Tacs become chewy. Well, this one didn't, and it broke my tooth. So screw you, Tic Tacs. I have to bring up some comments in the on YouTube that had to do with our opening, our pre-show from yesterday, having to do with the poutine discussion.
All right, let's go.
Yes. Now, one who's sort of pro my side, but then zings me. Robbie Stunts on YouTube says, "I'm a Canadian and don't like poutine, but don't bitch about it like Mike does." I show it respect and realize it's me, not the food. No, it's not you. It's the food. Sorry. The other person, Sean Holt on YouTube, says poutine is awesome, just like beaver tails. I'm thumbs up on beaver tails. It's just poutine that's gross.
And beaver tails are not actually tails from the animal beavers.
No.
Beaver tails are like they're the food that is prevalent throughout North America that is called the most things.
Fried dough.
Beaver tails, fried dough, funnel cake, pancakes. Yeah, like there's so many names for it. It's just but that's beaver tail. So it's fried dough with powdered sugar, which is like
my father had an Italian name for it that I can't.
No, it's a Zeppeli. That's what I just said.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it wasn't that. He had some other name for it.
Oh, really? He had another name.
Yeah, but I can't remember it now. But yeah, it's just fried.
Was it like Vafangul? It wasn't that, was it?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not Putana or Vafangul. It's not any Italian.
I heard that one a lot growing up.
I'm sure you did. Continue, Ak.
Oh man. So anyway, that's the deal.
What is this, Goodfellas?
We appreciate the poutine discussion. But there's now I wanted to start here today because there's a story on Sportsnet. Matt Duchene opens up about frustrating season in trade rumors.
I saw that.
It's definitely worth watching the interview. But the short of it, and Ryan Dixon wrote the story. He's at Dixon Sports. You want to follow him? He's really good. Duchesne starts saying, like last year, what happened last year with all the stress. He says, I burnt out in January, said Duchesne, who started the year, winning the gold medal in the World Cup. I think a lot of guys did. Nobody really knows how tough that situation was. When you're out of it by mid-December, to play the rest of the year out after playing big hockey at the start of the year with the World Cup, it was really hard. He's been, pretty adamant. It's not for me to decide. He says, it's up to the management in Colorado. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure where I'm going to be playing this year, for who I'm going to be playing for. But it doesn't matter. You come in with the same intensity and you go to the gym. We have some years there are things you're looking up, and that would almost give you some false hope, I guess, in Colorado. So you got to use this all as motivation. He says, because it's funny how short people's memories are, and they doubt you pretty quickly. So there's a lot of stuff going on here with him.
He's very honest. That's one thing. I've interviewed Matt Duchesne more than a few times away from the rink as well, and he is very honest. So, like, you can believe these statements. Like, these are not, like, well thought out, calculated statements. This is what he even says that because it's funny. The last thing he says, while the situation remains less than ideal, Duchesne has a clear idea of what he needs to focus on, even though the big picture remains hazy. And Duchesne says the visualization part is tough because you really don't know where you're going to be. So you just have to have some blind faith, work as hard as you can, and be the best version of yourself you can be. He said all the cliche stuff, but it's cliche for a reason. So yeah, that is, and this is, and Duchesne is a really positive, upbeat. He is. His parents are teachers, or his mom's a teacher at least. Yeah. And so he's a really educated kid. Yeah. He's well thought out as far as like wanting to help people. Like, he's a really good guy. That's why I'm always hesitant in painting this situation in a bad light, like he wants out. Even now, he's not talking like a guy who wants out, like he needs to be out.
Well, I don't think he is. In this scene, he is sort of off the record to other people, but not in a negative way. Like, I don't think it's impossible for him for the Colorado Avalanche to rebuild this if they wanted to.
No, because that doesn't help the situation. Him pissing and moaning in the press is not going to help the goal that he's trying to achieve, which is to get the hell out of there.
Look, and he could be, for lack of a better example, he could be Carmelo Anthony for the Knicks, who now refuses to talk to the Knicks and will not to talk about the Knicks at all, even though he wants to leave. He refuses to talk about the situation. Duchesne's not doing that.
Right. No, it's counterproductive, Russ, and that's what I'm saying. He's enough of an adult that he realizes that bitching and moaning in the press is not going to help the end goal of him getting out of Colorado. But in the end, I think that's his goal. It's like, but what's it, better to attract bees with honey than with vinegar? I mean, that's, I think, what's going on here. I mean, honestly, this situation has decompensated the Colorado Avalanche. If you look at what they've done during the offseason, or what they haven't done during the offseason, they still have less than 40 contracts. They have half a defense. They still haven't signed Nikita Zadorov. They've got Duchesne, who's unhappy there. 2 years left at $6 million. They haven't moved him because their price is apparently the asking price is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't see how that benefits Duchesne or how it benefits the Avalanche to keep this situation going.
Yeah, it really doesn't. But I do think I do think Duchesne. I mean, a lot of people say this is completely unfixable, and I don't necessarily.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't think it is completely unfixable, just because of who you're dealing with here at Duchesne. And because I think he does like playing in Colorado. I think most players do. It's not a city that people want to get out of usually. It's a nice place to play, and
the fans are great. It's a great rink. It's a great city. There's a lot of positives.
I mean, it's a really fun. I mean, there's some beautiful suburbs.
Yes.
I'm not.
But I think that I'm saying, Mike, is to say his goal is to get out.
No,
I think his goal is just to get resolution. I think.
Right, but I'm not ripping the Denver area. I'm not ripping the fans. It's the organization. That organization has been run over the last couple of years like either ownership is on their own self-imposed budget. We had the stuff a few years ago where Duchesne was the highest paid forward. Ryan O'Reilly was trying to get money, was trying to be at least paid as high as him. They had this internal cap that they would not pay anybody over Matt Duchesne. And that led to Ryan O'Reilly signing an offer sheet and eventually getting traded. And that's the reason why they're gun shy now to make a deal, because they got raped in the Ryan O'Reilly deal. So they're causing their own problems. If they could get that organization straightened out, I think Duchesne would want to stay, but I don't see that happening in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think that it does feel as if if to me, like Sakic, the whole thing about Sakic stepping away a little bit would be really good. I think they just are in desperate need for a management overhaul, just in general. I mean, they need somebody new to come in.
But it's hard because, again, this is what happens when you bring in a guy like Joe Sakic. It's hard to fire a guy like Joe Sakic because that's we've seen it's like Wayne Gretzky. When Wayne Gretzky came in, you knew someday Wayne Gretzky would get fired. And it's never a good day when you see a guy like Wayne Gretzky get fired. It won't be a good day when you see a guy like Joe Sakic get fired. But it's an inevitable. But that's the hard thing is when you bring in a legend, it gets sticky.
Well, I mean, and then the Kyle Dubas initiative, which we never really know what exactly went on there. But if the plan was to kick Sakic upstairs to team president and to have Dubas come in as the general manager, I mean, that would preserve, because, I mean, obviously he's a legend in Colorado. He led them to Stanley Cups. He won Olympic gold medals. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a fantastic player, a fantastic guy from everything I've heard. And okay, so you don't want to damage his reputation. And if you move him up into like a sort of a figurehead team president type of position, then that would preserve that. But right now, I mean, the evidence being there is he's not Steve Yzerman as a general manager. He's not even close to being it. And that's unfortunate for the Avalanche because Yzerman's done a fantastic job in Tampa Bay and Joe Sakic has done a terrible job in Colorado. Yeah.
I mean, and I think, a big part of that terrible job in Colorado was, the Patrick Waugh thing, which is it is what it is, like that kind of thing. Like you go all in with Patrick Waugh, and if it doesn't work out, you are going to have this kind of problem, like that's what it comes down to, right? So there's no easing out of Patrick Waugh, and that's what you saw.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was sticky.
Yeah, so they need a new. That's why a fresh start is probably the best way for them to go about things here.
But it's too late for that right now. Like
it is. I agree.
At that point where the season is upon us, like we're close enough now where camp is close that if you make a seismic shift like that, it sort of puts a damper on the season. Like it's hard to turn that around and say, don't worry, here's our plan. Like you can't put a plan in place in like 3 weeks.
Right. There's no way.
Well, I mean, the problem was there was a power struggle between Patrick Waugh and Sakic, where Patrick Waugh wanted certain players. He had some title that enabled him to have some control, but not complete control. And he wanted to bring in players. I think one of them was Radulov. I can't remember for sure, but I remember last year there was talk about Radulov, and he didn't get him. And then there were other moves. I think the re-signing of Tyson Berry was not on the was not something that Roy wanted. And when Roy loses all those battles, he's like, okay, I'm playing with a team that I'm not comfortable with. I'm gone. Well, now you've got the team that they supposedly wanted, and look what happened. You had a coach that came in like 3 weeks before the beginning of training camp. It was a complete and utter disaster. And that's what
I think I think he's a really good coach, and that's a shame.
He's a good coach. He had the deck stacked against him.
It's really a shame the way it played out for him. But I'm sure we haven't talked about this. It won't be the last time we'll talk about Colorado in the preseason. So
they'll be coming up.
We'll get more to them a lot. The other big news today so far is the Predators' Mike Fisher retiring after 17 NHL seasons. And this we had talked about was coming. I mentioned I talked to some people close to the Preds over the weekend. This is a really hard decision for Fisher, but what I loved about this was it was very old school. Like we talked about the way Poile works is a lot. In some ways, this felt a little bit like a Ed Snyder thing to me. Like they were going to let Fisher make his mind up, and they were going to give him whatever he wanted, basically. And it's a rare situation in the NHL that you see that. Like if he wanted to extend his year for another $5 million contract, they would have done it.
Right.
The Predators would have done it, and they would have done it happily. And instead, he obviously the Fishers don't need a lot of money.
No,
not a money situation. when his wife's can make his salary in a weekend tour. So that's another but they are so involved in the community too. They're such a big part of Nashville. I'm curious if the Predators I know the Predators will give him a job the second they can.
I'm sure that'll happen.
If he wants to do something with the Predators, he will, but he's got a lot of charitable things he works on and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, look, I mean, this is a beloved guy. He had a real nice career. What I'm thankful about is that he's actually retiring and he's not going somewhere to sign a phony one-day contract and then retire. Because I hate that one-day contract when a guy goes, I want to go back to the team that originally drafted me, and then sign a one-day contract so I can retire. I don't understand that move, and I'm glad he's not doing that move.
I'm okay with that move usually.
I hate it. It's so sappy.
I mean, if a player played almost all of his entire career, I don't know, it doesn't have. Did
Fisher's Wayne Gretzky do it?
No. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with it if he did, though. I mean, I think players should retire. I think it's cool for players to maybe the one day. I don't know. I can see what you're saying about the one-day contract, but I don't. It doesn't really.
It's just to me. It's a joke. It's like just retire, have a press conference if you want to. I'm okay with that, but you don't need to go and sign this foolish contract. That's all.
Yeah, it's a press release. It's not. It's due the acknowledgement of a press release. It's not like we've signed a contract for one. I like to see that one-day contract count $1 million against the cap. That nobody would do.
Right.
If I were the commissioner, I'd make it count against the cap. See, I would be like, one-day contracts count 1 day against the cap. If you want to do it, you'll have to pay him a commensurate salary against the cap, and that would effectively end the one-day contract.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't know. Your guys are kind of rough on that one. I think this is
just a personal feeling.
This is really just pomp and circumstance. This is really just like a matter of
but just like Mike said, have a press conference or do a press release. Those are your choices.
I guess you don't need a one-day contract to retire. You could just say I want to retire a Flyer.
Does that player keep the one-day contract and hang it on his wall? I've never heard of anybody doing that.
Does he get a signing bonus?
Yeah.
Well, Fisher had two teams really that he was a big part of in the NHL, obviously, and he spent. It does seem like a long time ago that he was a Senator, but it wasn't really that long ago.
Right, and the one thing
he went to the Stanley Cup Finals with the Senators as well.
Yeah, and lost as well.
But that has nothing to do with it. Will you stop?
Just kidding.
I mean, I do think for him, the Predators' long run made this harder. I think that. Talking to people, I think in his mind this was the last year.
Yeah.
But who expects you that you're going to be, playing Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final?
I had a feeling it was his last year. I did. I had that feeling in the Stanley Cup. I had that feeling when I saw him interviewing on the media day before the Stanley Cup. I just got that inkling, like this is it for him. I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and he's such a nice guy, such a soft-spoken guy, and was such a good captain. I mean, that's the big thing about this. That you do remember the Predators are, losing their captain here, and it'll be interesting to see where they go with their captaincy from here. My bet would be maybe Yossi. But I don't. I mean, we went from Shea Weber to Mike Fisher. If you remember.
Are we gonna have the same sort of? There was a little bit of a battle in Montreal between, and not battle, because I guess they still got along, but between Pacioretty and Subban, because Subban really wanted to be team captain of the Canadiens, and they decided that against that. I mean, he's only been there.
I can't give it to Yossi over Subban. I got to choose an offensive player, I think, just because of that.
I think you can give it to Yossi over Subban.
I think I would give it to Philip Forsberg. I do. Because then there would be no argument. If you give it to Yossi or Subban, there's going to be an argument then. Like, not necessarily with the players, but with the fans. You give it to Forsberg, there's really no argument.
Right.
They just signed a player for 8 years with $8 million a year. He's technically their best player, and that's often the captain. So Ryan Johansson could be.
They could do that too.
They could do that too.
I really don't.
You wouldn't. We know how you feel, but.
Well, let's use that as a segue to our to the thing we were going to talk about. There are some reports, Sportsnet, Associated Press, some reports out of Buffalo that the Sabres and Jack Eichel are nearing an 8-year extension. But the big question around here is the cap hit, because Eichel, and I just wrote about this in connection with what's going on with the Leafs and Matthews, which won't be till next year, but both McDavid and Eichel, 2 years in the league. McDavid wins the Hart and the scoring title in his second year, gets the top $12.5 million salary in the league. Eichel had a good rookie year, 24 goals, 32 assists. Last year was hurt the day, like 2 days before the beginning of the season, missed 21 games and matched the goal and assist total. He actually had one more assist in 61 games than he had in 81 the previous year. So that calculates out to about 70, 75 points.
Right.
The question is, how much he gets. Does he get I think he's going to get above what Johansson got, the 8 years, $64 million. I would think that he would get $8.5 to $9 million, but Russ, he's probably shooting for close to what Kane and Taves and Price are getting.
Yeah, here's the issue that I have with this, and I don't think anybody's been more pro Jack Eichel than me. But when I now have to put Jack Eichel in a bigger pool with all the top guys making these salaries, I now have to pin him up against other guys. So now, salary-wise, let's say if I'm going to do it with 3 guys, I'm going to pin him up against Ryan Johansson, and I'm going to put him up against Nikita Kucherov. Mm-hmm. I think he comes in, second or third in that group. And so now I can't pay him more than those guys because technically those guys are outperforming him. Now, if you think you could get a 100-point season out of Jack Eichel, I would disagree with you. I don't think he can.
Well, Johansson isn't an exact comparative because he's coming off a bridge deal, and he's
I'm saying,
I know.
I'm just saying what they might get point wise, where they stand in the team.
He's a few years older. I'm just saying that. Yeah. But Kucherov on his entry level deal had 2 60-point seasons, 60-plus point seasons. And they couldn't, because they signed Stamkos and they signed everybody else. They couldn't sign him to the 8-year deal, so they went for the bridge deal and are paying him almost close to $5 million. He's gonna break the bank on the next deal if he wants to.
Yeah.
Eichel's first 2 years are below that, but he's a franchise player. He's a second overall pick. They're clearly, Buffalo is a town that you would have an almost impossible task to get a free agent number 1 center like Tavares to come there. So they are probably going to overpay to keep him. But that's the thing.
That's the other drawing card here is he would be the biggest star in Buffalo, and that's a good marketing tool as well for the Sabres.
Yeah. And it's not that hard to get players to go to Buffalo sometimes. I mean, that depends. It depends on the situation, but for a couple of years it has been. But
right,
it is considered almost like.
But I'm not paying him $9 million, Zach. I'm not doing it.
No, and I think this is first of all, if I was him and the Sabres, I would sit down and say, let's talk about this in March or something, because this is where he's entering the final year of the contract. If he puts up a big number next year, in this upcoming season, if he scores 80 points, then you're talking an 8-figure contract. You're talking $10 million. There's savings here for the Sabres if they get the deal done now, because it's based on 2 seasons and one of them was injury shortened. They may get some savings, but the question is how much savings. If they get 8.5, then I think it's worthwhile for them to do it. If they're signing him for 9, it's based on what you think he's going to be and not what he's done. Yeah, it's hard because remember there's other players on this team, so that definitely plays into it at some point. Other players are saying, wait a second, this guy has, how many career points, and they just signed for $70 million. I mean, he does have to prove himself a little bit more. But doubts the talent is there and the ability to do it is there.
But we know that we know the situation with some of those players. Evander Kane, I think it's less than a 50-50 chance that he's back in Buffalo after next year, unless he completely remakes himself, is a good citizen.
If he gets that 50 goals, then maybe they'll keep him.
Yeah, exactly. They're probably going to end up buying out Matt Molson after this year, because if you look at his contract, he's got 2 years left. The last year, the contract was front loaded. If they buy him out, it's like almost $1 million a year for 2 years if on a buyout of the final year of the contract. So they'll probably buy him out. So that's $10 million in cap space right there.
Right.
So I mean, they can afford to sign Eichel to a big deal. It's just a question of properly allocating your money towards the players that have earned it. And that's the thing. I just don't know whether Eichel's earned it or not, but I think they're going to lock him up because he's the future.
Yeah, I think they have to. I mean, I think that I just think it would behoove maybe both. I don't know. I don't know. You're right. I mean, there is a benefit to the Sabres right now, but I don't know that it's a complete benefit. I think that if I was the Sabres, I would want him to go out and have a great year, and then sit back and then give him the money, because you're going to give him a lot of money anyway. So have him prove it for 1 year. And
here's what I would do. If I were the GM, I would offer him 8 years at $56 million. That's what I would offer him. 7 a year. Now,
there's no reason he would take that.
There's what?
There's no reason he would take that, because honestly, I mean,
he wouldn't take $56 million. Like,
no.
But this is what you get for
right. This guy considers himself close to Connor McDavid. Like, he's not Connor McDavid, but in his head, he is. You know, he might know that he's not Connor McDavid. But I've been around both. We've been around both of them too. Like, even when they were together, there was a very friendly little rivalry going on there.
No, but this is like borrowing off your allowance. If you want to get paid now, I will give you 8 years of $56 million. And if you want to prove that you could make more than that, then prove it to me. I'm fine.
Let's do 5 years at that rate or whatever. That's what he would do.
Well, I think it's the Sabres that want the 8. You know, because let's just say this: the Sabres do not want Jack Eichel hitting unrestricted free agency at age 26, because, you know, they'll offer him the max, but he might want to go someplace else at that point. If they haven't built a team around him, why would he stay? I mean, they want to lock him up. You know, he'll be 21 years old when the contract kicks in. He'll play through almost to the age of 30. You'll get most of the prime years of his career there. That's a benefit to the Sabres if they get him at a good number. But if you're talking about, you know, with only 2 years of statistics there, if you're talking about paying him $9 million, which is what, the fifth highest salary in the NHL after McDavid, the three guys, Kane, Taves, and Price, and Subban, on what? On what are you paying him? On potential. That's what you're paying him for.
Years in Buffalo, the only thing that you could be guaranteed that'll still be there will be the anchor bar.
Anchor bar. I knew you were going there, Ross. I knew it.
I don't know.
And I have to be equal here. I have just as much of a problem with Edmonton signing McDavid a year ahead. Now, okay, he wins the Hart. He scores 100 points. They get to the second round of the playoffs. They have a brand new building. They're guaranteed to sell it out with McDavid there. I understand the reasons why, but are you telling me if he put up another comparable year like that next year that you wouldn't get him at $12.5 million? You paid him $2 million more than the highest paid contract in the league. You could have gotten that deal done next year.
Yeah, I think so.
They paid him they paid him too much based on what he's done so far.
Yeah, but that's also Edmonton. You know, I mean, it
right.
Is, you know, to me that you know this. I think it's, you know, Buffalo's a lot easier sell than Edmonton as far as cities go. Edmonton's a real tough sell. I mean, what Edmonton has going for it is Connor McDavid, and for them to keep Connor McDavid there, it fixes a lot of things that, you know, like Gretzky did. You know, it fixes a lot of stuff.
But but the thing is, Connor McDavid, you could look at and foresee him possibly being the best player in the league in a couple of years. You cannot see that for Jack Eichel. He will not be the best player in the league. Jack Eichel, as a matter of fact, when other players start moving into prominent positions, other drafted players, he's probably going to be in the top 10, but I don't know if he's in the top 5. I doubt it.
Jack Eichel, if all things being equal, Jack Eichel may not be the best center in the Atlantic Division.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a tough one though. I mean, obviously, but I think that I mean, I don't know. I think Eichel's better than that, and I think
I'm not saying
top 10 in the league, Eck. I mean, you really
top 10 in the league is not going to be like you're saying like a $7 million a year salary.
No, I see. First of all, I think Jack Eichel is fantastic. I think he's an immense talent. I'm not ripping him by saying that. I'm just saying that Austin Matthews, as a rookie, as a 19-year-old, scored 40 goals. So if he continues on the path that he's on currently, and Eichel does, I think Matthews is probably going to be the more complete player and a better player. But
I think he is anyhow. But so yeah. I'm pretty sure McDavid's better. I think we're all in agreement. I think we'll mostly be in agreement that Matthews is better. I mean, do you think Eichel's going to be better than Kucherov? I don't.
No, but I think you'll make more money than Kucherov.
Well, but that's not the issue here. We're not talking about money. I'm asking you, do you think he'll be a better player, score more points?
Okay, score more, but two different things, right? Will he be a better player? He's more important to Buffalo than Kucherov.
I can't forget that. That is.
No, but all this comes into play when you're talking about.
But we're just
talking about contracts. That's what you have to do.
No, we're talking about pure talent, not talking about money.
Players. We're not talking like if you said.
I'd say Kucherov and here are in the same world. Okay, I think they're very much in the same place. Like I think it's. I'm not going to say that Kucherov's that much better than Eichel or Eichel's that much better than Kucherov yet.
And Kucherov
could be better than Kucherov. We know more what Kucherov is. We don't completely know what Eichel is yet.
And Kucherov has the benefit of having Stamkos and having, Palat and Johnson and that.
Right, but you can't do anything about that. Marcel Dion didn't have a lot either, and he still managed to score boatloads of points. Right?
No, I'm just saying it'll make it easier for Kucherov to be able to put up points because he's got a supporting cast that I think is right now better than what the Sabres are. I mean, the Sabres I think have some players.
A better player than Eichel right now. He is, but
that's all I'm saying. So when we start looking around the league and projecting maybe some of the younger guys, he'll definitely be in the top 10. But it's not a lock. He'll be in the top 5. Now, worth to an organization. Yeah, there's no doubt. He's worth a ton to the organization. But I'm pushing that aside because that would be like saying, well, Bernie Federko was worth just as much to the New York Rangers as Mark Messier at the time, Federko with the Blues. Yeah, but he wasn't a better player, right? So, I mean, that's, when I'm talking about, just flat out scoring.
Right, but we're talking about salaries. We're talking about why do guys get salaries is what we're saying here. So, like, to me, why does a guy get paid? For Eichel, the thing that comes into play, first of all, in his head, I do believe he sees himself almost on par with McDavid. So I think if he was taking $4 or $5 million less a year than McDavid, that wouldn't work for him.
It's a number of factors. It's the position he plays, and you can't say that it's not that because centers and defensemen are making more than wingers. Kucherov is a winger, and I think that was one of the factors with Tampa Bay not signing him to the long-term deal. If he was a center, that would have gotten done, but he was a winger, so it didn't get done. So it's a position.
And also, in fact, like you said before, like Stamkos exists there. That doesn't exist in Buffalo.
Right. It's where they were drafted. Now sometimes after a while that's meaningless. You could be a second pick and overall, and if you don't perform or don't put up the points, then a team won't really care if the guy's a second pick overall. But Eichel was the second pick overall. They basically tanked a season to get the guy. He's a franchise cornerstone, and it's a franchise that has in the past had a tough time getting big players to come there. So all those things factor into them potentially overpaying Eichel to sign a long-term deal in Buffalo. I'm just saying that those are all factored in, but you still have to be smart if you're the Sabres to not overpay in that situation. And if they get him at 8 or 8.5 or maybe even up to 9, okay. But if you start getting closer to 10 million on a guy who hasn't really put up big numbers or done anything big for this franchise, I think you're risking a lot.
Okay, he's a better player than Ryan Johansson, right?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Ryan Johansson's put up he's put 2 superior years in the NHL up. Jack Eichel's had a great rookie season and had a good year last year, 57 points.
Would the Predators trade Ryan Johansson to the Buffalo Sabres for Jack Eichel?
They're at different points in their careers, Ak.
I know, but
I don't think that's
when you pay salary, you're paying for the future prospect.
No, but you would always trade. You would always trade for the younger guy with more upside. I don't think that's a fair thing. But I'm going to give you something. You could tell me about this one. Another center, John Tavares, is 26. So at 26, he has 537 points in 587 games. Will Jack Eichel equal that or be less than that? And I think he might be less than that.
He might be. No, he might be. I mean, he's not. He does more than just score too. So he's not really. It's.
Sure.
He's more. He's more of a better scoring version of Jonathan Taves than
Could be.
Sorry, Tavares is more that. I mean, Eichel's got incredible skill to make incredibly skilled plays, but he does a lot more stuff beyond that too.
He does.
Part of that will cause injuries as well because he's not going to. Yeah. He's not afraid of shying away from contact and stuff like that. He's a little bit more. Where Tavares is not afraid of contact either, but can tend to put a little more on the outside, waiting to get in. I just think that at the end of the, I mean, there is no right answer to this, but I do think that he won't. If you were to sit there and say even $8 million for 8 years to him right now, I don't think they'd accept it.
Well, okay, the last 4 years for the guy who just signed 8 years, $64 million. The last 4 years, 60, 61, 63, and 71. That's Ryan Johansson the last 4 years.
I mean,
pretty consistent.
Consistent numbers, and I'm really going to be very hard on Ryan Johansson. We got to say Johansson. We got to do that.
That's fine.
But I've been very hard on him. But that's because of of other stuff. But I think I understand why the Predators did that. But I don't think that. I don't think that Eichel will be okay with a contract that isn't at least like somewhat closer to McDavid's. And if that might mean because of this injuries, because we haven't seen the potential yet, that might mean having to go for a shorter term deal here.
Okay,
I could foresee Eichel having 35 goal seasons.
Yes.
I don't know about 40. I don't know about.
Okay, let's take a guess here, because if the reports are true, then maybe in the next few days this is going to get done. Maybe it takes a little longer, but say it's going to happen in the next couple days. The over/under number is 9.5 million. Over or under, Russ?
What I would pay him, or what I think?
No. What do you think the Sabres will pay him?
I think it'll go under.
Ak?
Slightly under. I think it's pretty close though. I think it's about right. I mean, I think that I would say 9.2, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be under. I think it's going to be anywhere from 8.75 to 9.
I mean,
I think nine over under is the better number. Because that's where that's to me it breaks off on him.
Yeah, I think 9 over under is a better number, and I'll go under.
Because I go over with 9. I'll go over with 9.
I'll go under.
Yeah, 9. I definitely think it's over 9. Or 9 or over.
I mean, here, just as another comparison, different position, but is he better than Patrick Laine?
Equal, I think. I think in terms.
Equal is a good answer. I do.
And again, the better than thing is such a tough one, right? So I'm trying to figure out.
Well, but they're both worth a ton to their franchise. They are different players.
I think Eichel's more
goals, but
I think Eichel's more impactful, Russ. I mean, I remember Eichel's doing it on his own essentially.
I know.
And Laine had Ehlers on his line.
I think he is more impactful for the all-around game. I agree with that. But the points are going to be very similar.
Yes.
Really similar.
Yeah. That's true. That's very true. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw something in the next couple of days here too. I mean, I've heard the same things that everybody else has heard, and I think that they are trying to do something long term.
Yeah, it's in the Sabres' best interest to get this resolved. I think they're risking. I mean, obviously there's not going to be an offer sheet next summer that would be completely against that if that happened. But it puts the Sabres in a worse bargaining position if he goes out and has a big year this year. If he goes out and scores 75 to 80 points, then you may as well start at $10 million because that's what he'll ask for, and they'll have to pay it because he's that important to the franchise. I think they get themselves a little bit of a discount here.
They might be able to save themselves $1 million by doing it now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Really interesting stat I wanted to end with today. I saw this on Reddit Hockey, which is always a great place to look for things like this. The top 5 NHL teams in total wins since the year 2000.
Well, don't count Toronto.
And the bottom 5, right? So the bottom 5 and the top 5 since 2000. This was a really. So I want to see if you guys can guess because that's what I like to do.
So all right, in the top 5, I think the Rangers probably come in somewhere in the top 5.
Not.
They did not. Okay, so they're probably just.
They probably just miss it.
Chicago, I would think's in there, yeah.
Chicago is not in the top 5 in wins since 2000. How about that? I know, I thought that too.
St. Louis.
You guys have to remember the early 2000s. Like
yeah.
You know, St. Louis is not in here.
Okay.
When we had our kids like around 2001, 2003, I completely feel like I can't remember anything that happened during that whole decade. Like that, first 5 years of children, or even the first 10 years of children, just survival of the fittest. So it's like I can't remember much that happened. But when you go back,
I guess I'll go Philadelphia Flyers.
Flyers are not on this list.
Wow.
The New Jersey top or the bottom. Now, the bottoms are a little bit easier, but
I just want to tell the people at Reddit Hockey, this is a stupid list. All right, anyhow, go ahead.
New Jersey?
I will say this on here, since 2005, of the top 5, there's only 3 of them have won Stanley Cups.
So he said New Jersey. Was New Jersey one of them?
No.
Wow.
In that period of time, only 3 of these teams have won Stanley Cups. The top one is 820 wins since then.
Detroit,
number one, Detroit, 820 wins.
It's just so misleading because they're nowhere close to that now. But okay, Detroit.
I know. You go back since the turn of the century. Here you go.
So am I going to go Colorado?
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Colorado's not on the list. Pittsburgh, number 3, 756. So they've got 76 less wins than Detroit in that period of time. But they are.
I don't even care, though. That's the weird part. I don't even care. I just don't. Honestly, I don't.
August 3rd, Russ. This is like a fun thing to think about.
I know.
Who's been it? So you've got two of the 3 teams that have won Stanley Cups in this period of time.
Boston's
not. Nope. No Boston. So
Los Angeles.
So nope, no Los Angeles, which but they don't have a lot of regular season. They weren't great regular season. Anaheim, number 4. Yes. So with 736 wins. So you've gotten the 3 Stanley Cup winners out of the top 5, but you're missing number 2 and number 5. One from each conference. I'll say that.
Well, I'll go on a long shot.
I'll give you this hint that both of these teams have lost in a Stanley Cup final.
I was going to say I'm going to go with a long shot with the Ottawa Senators.
Number 5 is Ottawa, 727.
Yeah, I was thinking
the best Canadian team since the year 2000 has been the Ottawa Senators, flat out.
Yeah, that doesn't count the playoffs. Remember those chokes?
They went to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Sorry, Leaf fans.
The number 2, the second most wins since 2000. You guys have not gotten.
Would you have gotten it?
Yes.
The San Jose Sharks.
That's why.
Okay. You would have.
The San Jose Sharks, 785 points. I would bet the Predators are on this list too, pretty high. I bet they were in the top 10 because they actually have had.
Yeah, I would think the Predators and the Rangers are probably in there. The Flyers.
The bottom 5 is a lot easier, but the bottom team might really surprise you.
Arizona.
Arizona's got to be
26th, so they are 5th from the bottom.
Okay, so that's one of them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Toronto's not on this list.
Really? Oh, that's right. Early from 2000, got them out of the bottom.
Yeah.
Vancouver. What about Vancouver?
Vancouver's not on the list. Nope. They're probably pretty high, actually.
Yeah, they could be. It's hard.
They were good for the first 10 years of the.
The Panthers.
The Panthers are the worst team in the NHL since the year 2000, with 516 wins. That is 304 less than the Red Wings in that period of time. It's unbelievable when you think
Wow.
about it.
But here's the thing.
How about the?
I still feel worse for Arizona than I do for the Panthers because at least the Panthers have had an upswing. Arizona's yet to have that upswing.
With all that's going on in Arizona, I totally disagree with you, Russ. Because with all that's going on in Arizona, if you're an actual NHL team that's been pretty well, I mean, there's been issues in Florida with the ownership, but it's been still relatively stable, and you've got 50 less wins than the Coyotes since the year 2000. I think that's pretty horrible. I mean, that's really inexcusable.
But where's the upswing if I'm a Coyotes fan? Like, you're just telling me since 2000, like, where am I, where's the upswing?
I'm not saying there's anything good about
the How about the Atlanta Thrashers?
That's all I'm saying. So the three other
Atlanta Thrashers. Yeah, I'm trying to give you one.
No, I'm going to give you hints. Hints. Little 2 hints.
I'm guessing one right now. Let me
go
just
ahead, Mike. Go. Sorry.
The Atlanta Thrashers / Winnipeg Jets.
Yes, number 28 with 544. Yep. So now you have 27 and 29 to go. Both of whom made the playoffs last year. There's a good hint.
Columbus
at 29. Columbus is the second worst team since 2000 in wins.
I'll go New York Islanders.
Nope.
Oh.
This other team should have been. I thought you'd get this one right away. 27.
Playoffs last year.
They made the playoffs last year.
Conference.
But that was the first time they made the playoffs in a long time.
I'm blanking.
The Edmonton Oilers, guys.
Well, it's not true.
The Edmonton Oilers. That's right. Yeah.
The Edmonton Oilers are 27. So I think that's pretty incredible.
So easily forgettable.
So all Red Wings fans, out there who are upset about the rebuild. Honestly, that team's been really good.
Yeah, they have. But I think we should look at the bottom. So tell us again, 25 to 30.
Okay, yeah, so 26 to 30 is what I have. So Arizona's at 26 with 566. Edmonton at 27 with 561. Winnipeg / Atlanta at 28 with 544. Columbus at 29th and Florida at 30.
So really, 3 of those teams have had some upswing, and 2 are still we're unsure about after all this time.
I mean, Arizona got to a conference final. Edmonton got to Edmonton and Florida got to Stanley Cup finals. Columbus has not gotten past the first round. And who was the other one?
Yeah. Florida.
No, Florida, Edmonton, Columbus,
Arizona, Winnipeg.
And Winnipeg has not gotten past the first round. Atlanta lost 4 straight.
Yeah, the Winnipeg Atlanta franchise is by far. They have how many playoff wins in the history of this franchise? Just playoff game wins.
None. They got swept by the Rangers, right? Wasn't it? And they got swept, and then they got swept by Anaheim.
They have never won a game in the playoffs.
They've never won a game in the.
That's pretty unbelievable when you think about it.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long. They've been in the league for how many years? I mean, when did Atlanta come in? That franchise. That's
was it 94, 95, something like that?
Yeah. So they've been in the league for
almost 20 years, over 20 years.
Over 20 years, yeah. Over 20 years without a single playoff victory.
Crazy.
That's just.
But I'm just saying, I think about it. I always think about it as a fan, and at least for 3 of those teams, Winnipeg included, I can feel good about these teams. Maybe not great about Winnipeg, but at least I feel okay about them.
Yeah.
I still don't feel good about Arizona. I don't feel good about Florida.
99 for the Atlanta Thrashers.
So what does that say? It's 2017, and like Mike said, hey, Arizona, you made it to a conference final, but it hasn't been good for a long time. And
I mean, Arizona, they're very different situations, right? Florida has definitely never broken it down like Arizona finally broke it down, right? So Florida has tried to stay relatively competitive through this. I mean, or it has been. I mean, even if they broke it down, they managed to do a pretty good job at building up. They look like things were really turning around for them 2 years ago. It got totally screwed up this year. I mean, this year is just craziness. Maybe with talent returning and everything, they can get back on track because they were.
I guess here's the way I break it down. In the NHL, even when you rebuild, you can't build your entire team on prospects. You can't do it.
Right. You can't. Which is what's happening in Arizona until this year. Now, I mean, the Stepan trade is a big. That's why that deal is.
The Stepan trade's a big trade. Ronta is maybe a big acquisition. We'll see.
Yeah, but this is the first time. I mean, that Arizona has actually, and I know a lot of it was from instability, and it was hard to get players to go there because of the instability. Because a lot of players in there. I mean, I was told by at least two guys, and I'm sure that's like a sample size of if I was told by two, there were probably 20 guys in the NHL thinking it or whatever. That they didn't want to go to Arizona because there was always a slight feeling in the back of their mind that they could end up in Quebec, that Arizona could move to Quebec. That was always what people were afraid about. And when you go to, and it's not that they don't have anything against Quebec, but
taxes.
But the taxes are so tough. Yeah, so that's like something. I mean, people love. I mean, if Arizona was a good team, they would have no trouble at all getting.
Oh, they'd probably be one of the top destinations.
Yeah, they would be a top destination. I mean, it is the most beautiful place in the world to live, like year round. I mean, it's just Colorado,
especially in the winter when it's 75 degrees, when every place is -10. Yeah.
So, I mean, but look at the top five. The top five cities, right? Detroit's a tough place to live for some people. I mean, it's nice, but people, Michigan's definitely had its economic issues.
Oh yeah.
San Jose is a great place to live, but it's incredibly expensive to live.
Very expensive.
Pittsburgh is a great place to live too, but also has had issues. Anaheim is also crazy expensive, and then Ottawa has people have some players have issues playing
in Ottawa. The building is 25 miles outside of Ottawa.
Right. So that's the way. I mean, in the meantime, on the bottom, Florida is a beautiful place to live. In Miami, everyone would want to live there. Arizona is a great place to live, and then you have Winnipeg and Edmonton, right? But and Columbus, these are all great cities. But I'm just saying, it's interesting how. When you look at who are the popular popular destinations are, usually there is definitely something more to, like, Vancouver's an incredible place to live. Like, players want to live.
Very expensive too now.
Very expensive. I mean, all the West Coast is expensive. I mean, Philadelphia. What Philadelphia's always had going for it is like New York, Washington, and Boston, but it's cheaper.
Right.
So it's like it's just Philadelphia's a little bit less expensive. Not a lot. It's still not a cheap place to live, but it's less. It was way less expensive than New York or Boston.
And now it has poutine.
And
the best thing that you could say about Buffalo is it's within driving distance of Toronto.
The thing about Buffalo, okay, the two cities.
I'm from here, guys. I can say that.
I know you can say that, but I'll say this: these two things about Buffalo. There are two cities in this league where players play there, and you don't expect them to end up living there, but they do. And one is Buffalo. And the other is St. Louis. I mean, Buffalo and St. Louis are places where players, even if they play there for 1 year, will tend to end up back in.
Yeah, people are nice there. I think I've never met an idiot in Buffalo, and that's Mike included. I really haven't.
Well, and I will attest to that, because there's actually some, and I think he still lives here, like some of the Daryl Sittler moved to the Buffalo area because, I mean, first, the tax situation here is better, and it's bad, but it's better than in Ontario. And it is a nice area. And there's a lot, like, I think Marcel Dion lives in the Buffalo area. A lot of former Sabres live in the Buffalo area. It's a great area. It's just, I'm saying, that is, for those GTA kids who may not be able to go back to Toronto, going to Buffalo is, your family is an hour and a half away. It's not terrible.
Right. No, I mean, and
a helicopter ride away, like Evander Kane.
Some hockey players, they like the cold weather. They grow up in it. They want to stay, and some want to get out of there. I mean, the Russians love southern, like Florida.
They do. They love the warm weather. They get sick of the cold weather.
Because to them, I mean, they grew up in cold weather where it was hard. They had to go out and get the wood for their fireplace. I mean, it's not as easy as it is now for some people. I'm not saying it's easy all over the place, but you know what I'm saying. There's Russia. When it was cold in Russia, everybody knew it was cold. You had to deal with it.
I'll tell you who the guy who doesn't care about that is Ovechkin. Like, this is the guy who, even in the dead of winter, if you remember, he went out and got gas for his snowblower and was clearing places on his block and for strangers and cars, and
he loves that.
He doesn't care.
He does. He's awesome. I mean, we the story we've said many times of him driving up for a preseason game to Philly from Washington in an ice storm.
Yeah.
In a Prius that was his buddy's Prius. They drove up to just because the team was touring around in the preseason. He had been hurt working out, but this was the first time the team sort of got close to even Washington, and he wanted to support the team. So he drove up through on an ice storm on 95, which is like the worst thing you could possibly do. It's a horrifying experience, and just very. And he shows up, and I saw him, and I saw him with 3 of his buddies. They were all bundled up and complete, and as they got onto the elevator to go up to the press box, and I'm like, I told him, I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, I just couldn't be around the team, and I missed the team. I had to be around him, so we drove up.
And on his Instagram yesterday, he was snorkeling. Just so you know.
He's having his Instagram is showing he's having a nice summer. I'm going to show you something.
He got married.
Fun time.
He got married.
This is pretty cool. Check this out. All right. So last but not least, this picture was sent in, and this is if you're an Ottawa Senators fan and you're trying to buy tickets, this is this is just a seating map. But what's cool about this is the new face-off circle in the center.
Oh yeah.
If you remember, the Ottawa Senators always had the big logo there, and now they're going with the O. I like that.
I like the O. I
think that's going to be classy. I think it's going to be really cool. So, yeah, just something to think about.
That's nice.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, and this also, of course, I have to say this. Where's my stop? Okay, trying to stop screen streaming. But I have a story behind this, a real quick story, with the Ottawa Senators.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped screen save. I can't. I don't think I'll be. I think I'm gonna have to do this over top of this because I can't. My button to stop screen sharing is not there. So we'll end with this. But the first it was the second Stanley Cup final I covered was Ottawa Anaheim, and but it was the first time I walked into a locker room and stepped on the logo in the center of the locker room, the Ottawa Senators logo, not knowing the tradition of that at that point. So here I am. So I went in there, and it was so funny, and it was Jason Spezza who kind of covered for me. He was a great guy. And he's still a great guy, and he was a big Hockey Buzz fan, and actually through that whole Stanley Cup final, if you can see it, he was wearing a Hockey Buzz hat in the locker room and stuff like that, which was cool. But Betza saw me walking towards the logo, saw me step on it. One other trainer saw it along with him, and he's like, he's like completely, So I learned the hard way from that right away. So
we do have to mention one other thing too. We've not talked about this. Daniel Alfredson left the organization.
I know.
And it's a big deal there, and we forgot to mention it.
It is. We do have to get into that. We should talk about that. When we talk about the Senators, we'll talk. There's I don't know much the backstory on it, unfortunately, as to what's happening with it.
He says he enjoyed his 2 years, and he's taken this time to evaluate what professional challenge he'll pursue next. But that's pretty vague. I think things didn't go the way he thought they would go. That's my guess.
The only thing I wonder about with Swedish players and Finnish players sometimes is, especially those guys, they a lot of times in the back of their heads would like to return to Sweden or Finland with their families. And it's just, I know, like I think
he was looking for something on the fast track. Like
he wanted more responsibility than they were giving him, probably.
I think he wanted to be general manager, and they hired Dorian. I think that's what it was.
You would be shocked how many Swedish and Finnish players move back to Sweden or Finland because of the gun laws in America. And not to be political or anything like that, but that I've heard this.
He's in Canada. He's in Canada, and they have gun laws.
I'm just throwing this out as a separate thing. I'm saying it's amazing to me. Like, I've talked to a couple guys. Why are you moving back? Well, I got kids in school, and I don't like the guns. And I've heard that from 3 or 4 separate people that are Swedish or Finnish, and it's just.
I can't argue with them. I can't.
No, to them, they're like they're really scared. They're just scared for this.
Remember, these guys are from places that the whole country is the size of maybe Los Angeles, and don't have this kind of violence.
And can't have guns, right? And then I have no problem with people with guns in certain places and stuff like that. So I'm not going to gun thing, but I'm just saying.
No, we're not going to gun thing, but the idea of the violence, like the potential violence that could happen in a school, is definitely greater here than what they're used to.
And that's what they see, and they really see that, and they're afraid of it. So that's all the time we have for today, folks. We'll be back again tomorrow. I'm going to talk to you guys about that. The show's probably going to have to be late tomorrow. We'll talk about it, though, later on.
Okay.
So remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Please feel free to subscribe, like, or tell your friends about the site, and definitely comment, because we like reading the comments on the YouTube video.
Like them if they're nice.
Even if they're nice, we'll read them. And remember, if you're a Patreon, go to patreon.com/hockey to support the site. It's something that really is important to us, and is going to be more important moving forward. It's not that easy to do this show financially right now. we're all trying to make ends meet. You know, we're trying to make this work, and we really need your help. We've been doing it for a couple of years, and we hope that you find some value out of it, whether it's like $1 a month or whatever, 50 cents a month, whatever it is. If you find something in this, patreon.com/hockey. And if you become a member of, and you become a Patreon of us, a patron of us, yes, a patron of us at patreon.com. By the end of next week, you'll get 2 weeks from now, we're sending out HockeyBuzzcast t-shirts. So check that out, please. We really appreciate it. A couple of you joined yesterday. Thank you so much. Remember that the buzz is just hockey. We'll talk to you soon.